the key reason why under perfect competition you can't have sticky prices is because there is an assumption that the good is completely the same across firms. So because of that, each single firm does not have any price setting power. They have to accept the market. If you change your price by a little bit, you are out. Right? So that is perfect competition. Now the opposite case of absolute market power is what? What is the market structure that gives you absolute market power? Monopoly, right? That's the other extreme. And there are some milder versions like duopoly or oligopoly, or the one that may confuse somebody is this monopolistic competition. There is the word competition is still in there, like in perfect competition, but it's monopolistic. What does that mean?
Zero profits but differential prices.
It means that that assumption of homogeneous products is no longer there. There is some variety in prices, in products, so that firms have the ability to differentiate their products and set their own prices. So because of that, they are not selling at marginal cost. They are not setting price equal to marginal cost. They can set price equal to a markup above marginal cost. And that gives them room to keep the price fixed if they want, even if somebody else around is changing the prices. So the key assumption for sticky prices is that the market structure is not perfectly competitive. Okay? One other important reason for sticky prices is menu costs. So if you are, for example, a large department store, to change prices all the time is costly. So you may want to do it only at given periods. So we can summarize the reasons for sticky prices this way. You must have monopolistic competition or some degree of market power and menu costs. Okay? And this is what you have with monopolistic competition. You have that the price is equal to a markup over marginal cost. So you can increase production at the given price and still make a profit. Because you are not selling at marginal cost. If you were selling at marginal cost, if this term was not here, by increasing production, you would be producing at a loss. Because the extra units you were producing would be produced below marginal cost. So you will be making a loss. So that would not be possible under perfect competition. Here you can. And you can also find extra workers to produce that extra amount of output due to the efficiency wage. We are about to see that, how that works. Okay, so that's why with sticky prices, you will be able to produce at a level of output which is not on the full employment level. It can be above that. Okay. So a couple of slides to show you the evidence whether prices are sticky or not. So you can see here, this is the average time between price changes. So in some sectors, prices are very sticky. In cement or steel, every price change, you wait 13 months for a new price change. So prices are quite sticky there, right? On the other hand, at the other end, household appliances, you wait only 3.6 months for price changes. So they are more flexible. Here, this is the frequency of price change. So for about half of the firms, prices will change less than once a year or once a year at most, which means very steep. Right? Whereas for 10% of the firms, prices change more than 52 times a year. That means more than once a week, which is quite flexible prices. But this is only 10% of the firms in this survey. So in general, we see that there is strong evidence for price stickiness. That assumption that prices are flexible is not supported by data. Okay? So the evidence is there. Now, we need a theory that will, just like we did with the wage stickiness in wages, we need a theory that will be able to deliver that upward sloping supply curve due to sticky prices. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do next here. To give you a theory at the end of which you have a positive relation between output and prices due to stickiness in prices. So we will have two types of firms. We divide firms in two groups. So one type sets prices flexibly according to this rule. So the firm will have the price equal to the general price level and a fraction, A, of the difference between actual output and the full employment level of output. Okay, so that's one type. So the other type, firms with sticky prices, they will set their price according to the expected price level, because they don't know yet the actual price level, so they have sticky prices, remember, and again a fraction of the expected output and the expected full employment level of output. So these firms, in other words, will work based on expectations. They will make their decision based on expected variables. Now, if we assume that these two are equal, assume that output is equal to the natural rate, then their decision is to set prices exactly equal to the expected price level. So, one final element we need is to give a name to the fraction of firms who have flexible price policy and the fraction which have fixed price policy. So let's call S the fraction of firms with sticky prices. Okay, so like you can say 30% of firms have sticky prices, then that 30% is our S. Okay? And then of course the 70%, 1 minus S, will be the fraction of firms with flexible prices. So based on all this, the general price level will be given by S firms deciding to set the price equal to PE, the expected price, the sticky firms, and 1 minus S firms setting price according to this, equal to the actual price plus the difference between output and expected and full employment output. Okay, so from here, now to get our aggregate supply curve equation, first of all we need to bring all the terms in P on the left side and solve for P. Right? Now P is both here and here. I like this traffic. So we do that. We bring price on the right, on the left side, okay? And that's what we get once we do that. So the price will be equal, the general price level will be equal to the expected price level plus this factor times the difference between output and expected output and full employment output. So you see that the price level will be positively related to the expected price. So if the expected price is higher, then the price level will be higher. Also, it will be a function of the difference here. If output is greater than full employment, then the price level will be also higher. Okay, that's intuitive, right? If you think about it, if the economy is working at, full capacity, then you expect prices to be high, right? Okay. And of course, this also will play a role. So depending on the fraction of firms with sticky prices, so let's see, if the firms with sticky prices, if their proportion is high, then this term will be lower. So the price level will be lower, okay? Okay. So to get from here, to get the equation for the aggregate supply, what do we need to do? I really think that I was thinking about it the other day while I was taking a shower. That it's not, sitting down, it's actually not the proper way to be at your sharpest and follow a lecture. I wonder what would happen if you were standing up, all of you standing up. Let's try this for a minute. Please stand up, all of you. You become much sharper, You don't know about it, but because you have to stand up, you cannot go like this. So you become sharper, and then you are able, because if I sit down there, I will also slowly get into this mode of, lose sharpness. But I am not like that because I'm standing up. I'm actually even moving around. That's why I'm like that. And you guys, I'm talking generally, you are sitting there, so that does not encourage blood circulation and all that. So so if we try for just a few minutes this setup, I want to see if it makes any difference, okay? So I'm asking you now, how do we go from here to the equation of the aggregate supply curve? See, I see already eyes that are much more alive than before.
So we make y bar the subject.
And the guy who was sleeping most of all of them now is the liveliest of all. What do? We
make y bar the subject.
Why y bar? Why you want to make y bar the subject? But y bar is the full employment level of output. It's a constant here. It's not the variable. You will make y the subject, right? You make y the subject, and surprise, surprise, you get to the familiar, well-known equation, which we already saw a number of times, where in this case, this alpha is equal to this term here, S over 1 minus S times A. Okay, are you getting tired? You want to go back down, or is it fine? It's fine? Okay, so that's how we get that. So, all these cases we have seen so far, rigidity in nominal wages, rigidity in nominal prices, they are generating this upward sloping supply curve, which will result in non-neutral money supply. Now we want to turn to being able to explain unemployment, okay? To explain why in the labor market we don't go back to the equilibrium where labor demand is equal to labor supply. We are left with persisting excess labor supply, which we call unemployment, right? To do that, we have to make an argument for, why we are going back to the equilibrium in the labor market. Because the wage is adjusting, right? So in order to explain the persistence of unemployment, excess labor supply, we need an argument for that wage not to
adjust and not to fall.
Not to fall, right? So some arguments have been put forward. One such argument is regulation about minimum wages. So if you have minimum wages, Okay, so we have, now it's an experiment I'm making that I want to see if people are sharper when they are standing up. Okay, so if this is, real wages, and this is employment, and this is labor supply and labor demand, and this is the equilibrium wage, the one that equates labor supply and labor demand. But if this is your minimum wage, then you can see that if the law prevents you from reducing the wage below, then you will have here an excess supply of labor, unemployment, for instance. So that's one argument. But of course does not apply everywhere. Why not? It will not apply anytime
When the equilibrium is at the level of the
when the equilibrium is higher than the minimum wage, which is in most cases, fortunately. I mean, in most cases, equilibrium wages are actually above the full employment level. So in those cases, this will not apply. Another possibility is to pay high wages in order to prevent high turnover of people. When people you pay low wage, they can easily leave you and go move to another job. I have experienced this myself. When I came to Pakistan, I had to hire a maid for my home, and I didn't know what to pay her. So I was asking around to colleagues. Back in 2006, they said market rate is about 2,000 rupees. So I hired the person, paid 2,000 rupees. She disappeared after 2 weeks. So I hired another, again 2,000 rupees, another week, and she was gone. Then I thought maybe 2,000 rupees is not a good wage. Maybe I should increase the wage. So I paid a lot more, this new person, and she's still working with me today. So it's been now almost 13 years. So that was, a clear case where when you keep, the wage higher, you make sure that that person will not leave as easily, right? So a third argument is about productivity, the linkage between the wage you pay and people's productivity. So if you are paying a higher wage, that may be an incentive to be more productive, right? For two reasons. One, because you are enticing them. You are saying, by paying the higher wage, you are making them feel good, feel important. And so they will want to correspond by working more, harder and being more productive. And the other one is because they have more to lose. If you pay a higher wage, they will not be willing to shirk. You understand this word? Shirking means you pretend you're working, but in reality you are on
avoiding
social media and not working. Okay, so that's one other possibility. So the main idea behind this, it's well explained in this graph. Okay, I think it's not so useful to stand up. I see some. Anyway, so this is, if you want, you can go back and sit down. It's up to you. You can sit down. I was just curious about, So this is the, one other positive effect of you standing up is that you can empathize more with me that how much energy I'm spending by standing up 2 hours here and also moving around. In fact, I have an application, that counts the steps that I'm working every day. When I'm teaching, the number of steps, I say that I've not walked anywhere, but the number of steps is very high because I'm, walking a lot around here, in fact. Anyway, so going back to this graph, this is the connection between the real wage and the level of effort. So this is an increasing curve, but look at the shape. Here it flattens Why would it flatten? So that means that if we increase the wage, there will come a level, no matter what, if you increase the wage, the level of effort will not go up. Does it make sense? Yes?
Human capacity, right? It's after a point like you just can't do more.
Exactly. So we all have some kind of threshold, level best. So once we reach our level best, we can't do any better than that, right? And therefore, that's the level where the effort curve flattens. But before that happens, in the beginning, as we pay more, our effort level goes up. First, at an increasing rate, reaches a maximum, and then the rate reaches a maximum, and then it starts decreasing. So you can see here that the firm wanting to maximize the effort per dollar of wage paid will pay this wage. Why? You know, this line connecting the origin to the effort curve is the line measuring precisely that. The amount of effort per dollar of wage paid. And see, this is flatter, then it goes steeper and steeper until you get here, and then it becomes flatter again. So that's the line of maximum steepness. And this is called efficiency wage, W. You know, this theory, this model, efficiency wage model, was actually made by an economist who was my teacher in London when I was doing my master's at Birkbeck College, University of London, in the 90s. He was the author of this theory, efficiency wage theory. And now I am teaching these theories. Nice too. So I actually don't remember his name. I just remember this fact that he was the one who made this model. I should Google it and then I'll quickly find who the guy is. But this is the reasoning, the logic behind. So firms will pay this wage which maximizes effort. Now, what is the consequence of that on our usual labor demand, labor supply graph? You can see this is our labor demand, this is our labor supply. Now the firm will no longer follow this rule, but will pay that efficiency wage, the wage which, no matter what, maximizes effort per dollar paid. The firm will not be willing to, even if they have a queue of people lining up to work outside, they will not want to hire them at lower wages. Because they will think that by doing so, the productivity of the workers will go down. Okay, so they will pay this W star. This means that now, this point here is no longer meaningful. The level of employment is no longer the one where labor demand is equal to labor supply, but it's where labor demand intercepts this line, the horizontal line with the efficiency wage. So this is the new level of employment. So the new full employment level of output is no longer this one, but it's now this one. And what is the other consequence of that? Can you see it on this graph? Yes? One important consequence is that we have now unemployment, because this is the level of employment, but this is the level of amount of labor supplied. This much will remain unemployed, right? What is another consequence? That labor supply will no longer be determinant in setting the employment level and the full employment level of output. It will only be important labor supply to determine how long is the queue outside. So if labor supply changes, that will increase or reduce the length of the queue of people unemployed. But it will not change the full employment level of output. So you can see here that, remember that argument that when government purchases go up, there is a wealth effect, people feel poorer, so they want to supply more labor, and therefore the labor supply curve shifts. This changes the position of the full employment level of output. All that argument will not apply here anymore. Because even if labor supply changes, there will be no change in full employment level of output. The only change will be in the amount of unemployment. The production output is still a function of some function of capital and labor. So it will be a function of this, and this will be determined by labor demand and by the efficiency wage, not by labor supply. So obviously if labor demand changes due to some shocks, technology shocks for example, then this will change, right? But changes in labor supply will no longer change this. So will no longer change the full employment level of output. Okay. So a change, as I said, in productivity will affect the full employment line because will affect labor demand. Anything that affects labor demand will affect the full employment level of output. But anything that affects labor supply will not. Okay, so this means that firms now can find from that pool of unemployed people, they can find extra workers if they want to increase production. And so the new concept of how much labor will firms hire to find that, Abel Bernanke uses this effective labor demand. So what is the effective labor demand? It's basically production function flipped on its side. So we have, here we have labor and output. This is the production function. So if we have a given level of output, that corresponds to a given level of labor employed. So if you change the axis, you put this on the horizontal axis and this on the vertical axis, then you have, where is it going? I didn't touch anything. Then you have this, which is called the effective labor demand. So you can read on this graph how much labor you will employ for any given level of output produced. Right? So for example, for the full employment level of output, this will be your labor employed, N bar. And so you can use this in together with your ISLM graph. So if you have an increase in money supply with the shift, so first you are going from E to F, and therefore you move to Y2. So at Y2, how much labor you hire? If you were hiring N bar, now at Y2 you will be hiring N2. You can read that on the effective labor demand curve. And then of course, once you are here, you will have in due time the adjustment to the general equilibrium. So how will that adjustment happen? Increase in price level. So the LM curve will shift again back. We'll move back to E, and here we will move back to E also. So the level of employment will fall back from N2 to N bar again. Similarly, with increasing government purchases, first we have the shift due to the increase. We have higher level of output. We can read on this effective labor demand, higher level of labor employed. And then we go back through the increase in prices. The LM curve shifts, so we move to H, and we go back to the old full employment level of output, and N bar, the full employment level of employment. Okay? Now, this is the case with a flat short-run aggregate supply. So you can see that when you make that crude assumption that prices are fixed in the short run, that's the crude assumption we were making in the beginning, that prices are fixed, completely fixed in the short run. If that is the case, then output would be increasing this much, right? And then, of course, you'll have the adjustment to back once prices increase in due time. But of course, that is not a realistic assumption. We have seen the evidence that there is rigidity in prices, but they are not completely fixed in the short run. They still change. So, some of them at least. So, in that case, this is a more appropriate representation. We have seen different ways of generating this upward sloping supply curve. We looked at it extensively today. So, and also last time with, the misperception theory. So, if that is the case, if that is your short-run aggregate supply, then if you start here with this expected price equal to P1, and then you have a shock to the AD curve, moving it to the right or upwards, if you like, then in the short run, your output will increase, your actual price level will increase, but your expected price level will still be the old one. You are still, as long as you are on this short-run aggregate supply, your expected price is not changing. When your expected price changes, what happens in the graph? The short-run aggregate supply will shift to the left. Okay, now the new price level will be P3, and this will also be equal to the expected price, and output, of course, will have gone back to the full employment level of output. Okay. Okay. I still have to do two things, and I have 5 minutes. One is to tell you about the performance of Keynesian theory. We have seen that it is good at explaining non-neutrality of money and unemployment. It is less good at explaining the procyclicality of average labor productivity. Okay? So, average labor productivity in the data, as we saw, is procyclical. But if there are diminishing returns to diminishing marginal product of labor, then it should be countercyclical. So how do Keynesians explain the procyclicality? Which means as output is higher, average labor productivity will also be higher. So how can that be explained? This is the average labor productivity I'm talking about. Okay? They explain it with labor hoarding. What does that mean? It means that when the economy is slow, when the economy is in recession, they will not fire workers. They will not lay off workers. They will retain them and perhaps keep them idle. So that way, output is down due to the recession, But this is not changing. And therefore, average labor productivity does go down. And whenever the economy picks up again, then you call back your employees which are still on your payroll and get them back to work. This will now go up, so average labor productivity also goes up. So you can see that you can have average labor productivity even without any shift in the supply curve, even without any shift in the supply curve, in the production function, I'm sorry, even without any shift in the production function, because of this policy followed by firms not to fire workers whenever the output becomes slow. Now, many times I will let you go before the end of the, so you can bear if we stay 5 minutes longer today. All right, it's no problem because I have a long, credit in terms of time with you. Many times I let you go well earlier than it was due. So let's look at this. This is the last thing I want to do, but it is important. So please stay focused for this one as well. Here, this is an analysis of a negative IS shock. Shock, for example, due to a drop in consumer confidence. If you have consumers who are less confident, they will consume less. And so consumption will go down, and the IS curve will move to the left. Okay? That's the shock. So what are the policy options in the face of a shock like that? So the consequence of the shock is that if we are at E, we will move to F due to the shock. So output moves below full employment level. Okay? So once we are there, due to the shock, what are our options as policymakers? You are the advisor to Mr. IK. You know IK, yes, sir. So you are called and he wants advice from you.
So we are at level, we are at F and we want to go back to the full employment level?
Right. So what are the options? You have 3 options. Let me tell you this. What are the 3 options?
So we can increase government spending. Maybe.
That's one option.
That's one of the options that's going to.
The other one, we will go about that. The other one.
So we can increase the money supply.
Right. And the third one, the obvious one, just do nothing.
Yes, sir, but then.
If we do nothing, so we must know what happens in all of them. I'm not saying it will be good to do nothing, but we must know what happens in each possible course of action, right? So if we do nothing, what happens when we are at F?
Sir, output is below the full employment line, so prices will fall.
Exactly. Prices will fall.
And the real money supply will increase.
Will increase. So LM curve will shift.
Will eventually shift rightwards.
And will go to H. But this will take time.
Yes, sir.
This adjustment will take a long time and we will be in recession with high level of unemployment and all that with a high cost for society. So that's an option. The other one is to accelerate this process. Instead of waiting for prices to fall, we can increase the nominal money supply so that immediately the LM curve shifts and we go back to H. That's the monetary policy option. And the third one is
fiscal expansion.
Fiscal expansion.
Decrease interest rate.
Sorry?
We can decrease interest rate as well.
That's another way of, so we will see when we get to talk about monetary policy in detail that increasing, so that the central bank can work through different targets, either targeting the money supply or targeting the interest rate, which is called an intermediate target, because the interest rate cannot be immediately in the hands of the central bank. again, to target the interest rate, the central bank has to work through the money supply. But here, so those are the two, and the third one is fiscal expansion. With fiscal expansion, we don't go to H, but we go to E, the highest curve shifts. So we go back to full employment level in all three options. In one, it's too slow, and the other two is faster. So how would you prefer, which one would you advise? What are the differences between fiscal expansion and monetary expansion?
So the monetary expansion would involve increasing the money supply. That's fiscal expansion. Sir, but if we increase government spending, that will also lead to other problems such as crowding out of investment.
Exactly. So the difference is in the eventual equilibrium interest rate.
Yes, sir.
With monetary expansion, the interest rate is lower. And therefore, the return back to full employment output occurs through an increase in investment. Whereas in the case of fiscal expansion, that directly increases, output to full employment, but it crowds out private investment through higher interest rates. And also, there may be some crowding out of consumption as well, if you accept that consumption is also a function of the interest rate. Because if you have a higher interest rate, you want to save more and consume less. Okay? So,
Sir, can it also decrease consumption through the effect of taxes? Say, for example, an increase in government spending may lead to an increase in taxes.
yes, it can.
I think you have to do somewhere by 4.
Okay, so basically I'm done. This is a final slide about why you should not use monetary and fiscal policy to fine-tune the economy, because there are some difficulties involved with the lag in applying these policies. But you can read this yourself, so I'm done. And thank you for staying. And we had some problems in the beginning, but I hope it will be smoother from now on.